Good morning, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. Boy, oh boy. I wish you could just see how silly it is around here sometimes. And then there are times I'm glad you can. I am going to be your host for the fun and merriment this morning. Hey, Squirrel Not Zipper. Squirrel's doing considerably better after getting all of the cactus spines out of her snout. Not a very happy cat, but she took it like a pro. She really did. She let me work on her, so actually super impressed with that. This subject sucks, and we did it a while ago when the British press broke the story concerning Russell Brand's accusers, the majority of whom are across the pond, with one that. In the original pack, one was in Los Angeles. Recently, as in, I believe yesterday, an announcement came out that in the state of New York, a woman who worked as an extra on the film Arthur, and if I'm not mistaken, that goes back to like 2010, right? Long time ago. A girl who was on a woman who worked as an extra on the and she was closer to a girl actually at the time, very young woman who worked on the film, has come forward and is taking him to court for SA, right? Hey, Paul Sargent, good to see you, man. 600 days. Well done, man. Good to see you. He's on the other side of the pond. Good to see you, Paul. Glad that you're here. Congratulations. That's awesome. So now you've got what happened with this is a unique case because the statute of limitations is up on the crime in the state. The statute of limitations, the statutes of limitation is up on this. So what they've done, they have a law that gives you 1 year. If your statute of limitations is up, you have 1 year in order to file a case civilly. So this is a civil case. This is not going to. There's no risk of Russell going to prison because of what he's being accused of on the Arthur set. But this is a civil case, and apparently there are a lot more people who are being investigated. When accusations that are being investigated. Now, the first time I talked about this, I said, this is difficult. And it's difficult because I dig the guy, right? And you don't want that to cloud your judgment. But I started doing a really deep dive on this. And, you know, a bunch of people have weighed in on this. A bunch of people have done videos on this. And some have seemed to change their tone concerning, you know, where they weigh in on the subject, where they supported Russell Brand and then seemed not to, and then sort of went back. It gets very confusing. I don't want to do that. I don't want to get in on any of that. However, I started deep diving the crap out of this and of the originals, because what happened with this woman in who was on the film Arthur. She has sued everybody on planet Earth that has anything to do with the film. And maybe that's how it's done. I don't know. But everybody that any production company, I mean, the people that were cooking, like anybody that had anything to do with this film is getting sued. And again, who knows? Maybe that's de rigueur, right? Maybe that's just how it is done. But it has an odd feel to it. That I'm not taking anything away from the woman. I'm not. I promise you. However, when I started, I think Paula, that's pretty accurate. Paula says he's another Jimmy Savile. I think that the accusations certainly make him look that way, to be sure. Now, I don't want to weigh in on something that's based on emotion, right? This guy does so much for recovery, and he's also just a voice for free speech. And a lot of what the cat says, makes me want to root for him, right? But I started looking at the original case, which I've had plenty of time to do now. And there are 2 cases out of 5 that really, really seem to be really well documented. And to the point of which, if you're not believing these people, then you're just, I think you're being thick. One is a girl, a woman. She was really young at the time. She's a woman now. She was a girl then, in Los Angeles, that had a relationship briefly with him in 2012, and he her R'd her, in all honesty, at his home in California. She went the next day to get looked at for for being assaulted. She turned over all of the books for when she was talking to her therapist at the time. She's got text messages back and forth between she and Russell talking about the incident. There's just no way to, I really absolutely want this guy to be innocent. He's just not. And I don't know about all the other ones, but you look at this Nadia case and you do any research on this at all, there's just way, way, way too much that, and it's unfortunate. And the camps on this case get so heated and divided that people really get ugly. And that's also unfortunate. And I understand why, because this guy really is doing wonderful things and has really, really turned his life around. He also talks about how everything that he did during that 6-year period of time between 2007 and 2013, when he was at his debaucherous hedonistic top, that anything that he did, he was very, very promiscuous, but that everything he did was consensual. And my comeback to that would be that if you're drinking a fifth a day and taking handfuls of benzos, that there are days you don't have any idea what you did.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, that's just the truth. Sandra, good to see you. I'm well, thank you. This subject sucks. This is one that honestly is no fun to talk about. I watched 5 people drop off when I started talking about the girl from LA having a very really just a very strong story, one that is difficult to to dispute. And then the girl in New York who's taking this out right now, the civil case. I don't know this woman's case. I really don't. But I'm now clouded to the point where I can't be objective, and I'll admit that. This woman in the newest case would like to be anonymous for some really obvious reasons. Right? This guy's got 6 million followers or whatever on social media. I don't think I would want my name out either. Right? And because of how heated this discussion has been, you can see why someone really would not want their name released out into the press. So they're calling her what they call everyone in that same situation, which is Jane Doe. And after meeting the Jane Does in the other case, and I've met 3 or 4 of them now, I'm never going to be able to be impartial, and I'm never going to be able to be anything like that again. But at least I'm able to say that, right? So right now, I'm struggling. And there's 2 camps, right? Let's be really, really clear on this. There's 2 camps. And one camp says, this cat has done so much with free speech, and he's so in the face of the power that the power structure that has been in place forever, especially vis-a-vis anything having to do with media, right? Like, he is literally a powerhouse. The dude makes a video like I do, except 1 million people watch it, right? Or 2 million people watch it. That's crazy, right? That's influence. That's mad, mad influence. So there are a lot of people that believe that the press are doing everything within their power to shut him down. And people say stuff like, hey, he's a little channel on YouTube. Do a little research and find out how many people are watching CNN on a Friday night. And it'll scare the hell out of you. Honestly, a YouTuber with some reach sees more people than CNN does on a Friday night. And he's got some reach. So one camp says they're trying to eliminate him and remove him because he's a power for free speech. And the other camp says the guy's a predator who was wasted on drugs, going after women and In one case, the woman Alice, right, who is from across the pond, she was 16. She's a girl. At the time, she had a relationship with him, which is not illegal over there. But her story is another one that is absolutely horrific, right? And when you start to look into and read all of these, so you've got the two camps, right? One says that he's a predator of young women, and the other says that that the press is trying to destroy him. And there's no reason whatsoever why they both can't be right. You know, there's no reason at all why they both can't be right. It smells funky when all of a sudden a press agency or a news agency says, we found 6 women, right? I understand why people go, you found them? Like, how do you go out and just find people? But the truth is, if you research this one, and that's an argument you hear online from commentators all the time, is how did the press just all of a sudden find these women? But you have to deep dive. If you just take stuff and look at it at face value, you're not going to get anything out of anything. But what happened is really quite simple. And what it was is this guy was really something on the comedy circuit, right? So they go from small comedy club to comedy club, and it's not much different than a rock star does, except much smaller crowds and much smaller money. But they tour the country and they go to comedy clubs, and that's one of the places that he really got a horrific reputation, was on these comedy circuits, and that's where the rumblings started, and that's where the press first caught wind of it. Someone who had a friend in comedy said to a reporter, "Good Lord, you cannot believe just how much of a predator this guy is." And that started the process of them calling people who knew people, and that led them to somebody who then led them to somebody. So it sounds a lot worse than it is. It's actually a pretty logical paper trail through this one of how they researched it. Again, it sucks, right? Nobody wants Russell Brand to be guilty of this stuff, but boy, the girl in Los Angeles, Nadia. I mean, there's all of the notes from her counselor that she went to immediately after this happened. How do you there's nowhere to go from there, is there? I mean, is it me? That's pretty cut and dry stuff. He sent a text message that you can go online and read. You can see this text message. And boy, if he's not talking about an incident of SA, it really sounds like he is. There's just an awful lot that makes this look really bad. That does not mean this guy didn't do wonderful stuff for a lot of people in rehabilitation. It just means that he was a real piece of crap on a lot of occasions. And it's a life lesson for what drugs in relationship to a crap load of power does to almost everybody that goes down that road. It doesn't mean that they're going to become a predator, but it means that whatever their excesses are, whatever the things in their life that they are really susceptible to doing, they're going to do. And they're going to do it wantonly and out of control. And for some people, it's just to get higher. But his addictions obviously ran far deeper than just drugs and alcohol. He was a very, very hedonistic human being. Russ, it's hearsay until you get to the person that was assaulted, and it's always that way. It's absolutely it's hearsay. But when the FBI hears, so and so is selling out of such and such a place, it's hearsay, and then they go and they set up a camera outside and they videotape for a while, right? They take pictures and they go through that whole process. And when it's all said and done, they show up in the court and they say to the judge, "Look at all these pictures we got. Any chance at all if we get a search warrant?" Yeah, well, as far as I believe it may be hearsay. I in what he's referring to. Let me put this up for people who aren't watching this live. My friend Russ says, Amber Heard tried to refer to therapy notes she wrote, and the court considered that hearsay, I believe. I agree. If the therapist turns over their notes, I think that's probably a slightly different thing. But for me, the fact that those notes exist is really that's the problem. The fact that those notes exist means that this happens, right? I don't think that she decided to go to a R crisis center, right, the day after this happened, and she didn't at that point come forward or anything else. But once again, like happens so often with other situations like this, when they realize that there's a bunch of people out there, it almost always changes how they feel. When they realize that this is something that was done to a lot of people, it really changes for the warriors that come forward and fight this. Every one of them, Russ, you included. Yeah, no, I get it. I don't know how it works. I think if the notes, it would make sense to me that if the notes had been written by Amber Heard, that they wouldn't be allowed. If they had been written by the clinician or whatever you want to call it, the counselor, to me that seems like a different animal. I don't know the rules on subpoenaing things like that, but I know that it's got to be such an uncomfortable. Lydia von Stretchclaw says, "This is good though. Tell me you don't." My brain exploded when Zach Morgan was explaining hearsay rules. So complex. I was when I was in prison, I worked. One of my hustles was writing up stuff for in the law library, and I was not one of the legal beagle guys that was super good at looking all of this stuff up at all. But I was on a yard where a guy was helping people change the crack laws. The crack laws, the way it worked was if you got caught with 5 grams of crack, it was the equivalent of getting caught with 50 grams of powder. Right? Can you imagine that? You got caught with 5 grams of crack. It was the equivalent of getting caught with 50 grams of powder. So if you, God forbid, got caught with an ounce, you were going to the feds. Right? You got caught with an ounce of crack, you were going to the feds for a long, long time. When the laws changed, all you had to do was file the paperwork and people were getting out. I mean, like this, as fast as you could get the paperwork filed, people were leaving. And the reason is it was a very, very racist law. Everybody that I was filing papers for was black, everybody. But there was a legal beagle guy that was super good at it, one of the law library guys. And he just hired me to help. And he showed me what to do, and I was cranking it out with him. And then I got in trouble, and I got sent to a different prison. But I still had all the paperwork and everything set up to know how to do this. And when I got to the yard, like no one there had even heard of it. Seriously, nobody there was talking about getting out, and there were so many people who were had been convicted under the crack law that were right there. So I started to say, "Hey, I'd be more than happy to fill out papers for you guys for X number of dollars or whatever." I would read these people's cases. I had to read just enough of their cases so that I could switch the amounts, right? But legalese is just awful. And you know what's ridiculous is it's not even the same from one place to another. Like the way that stuff was written up where I was convicted on the West Coast compared to how things were being written up on the East Coast was just night and day. You have a story that I look forward to hearing it, Russ. Russ, I would imagine you could probably tell me stories all day long that would blow my mind. I think that's that's kind of, right. That's how we end up in places like that. So back to this case. I wholeheartedly believe that the reason that the press is having such a field day with him is because they hate him. And I think they hate him because he is someone that stands for free speech in a huge way. I think he does a ton for the rehabilitation community. He's brought so much attention to rehab. and has just been such an out in the open advocate for people with addiction, problems. Love all of that. That I'll never not love that. But it's a cautionary tale. If you're taking drugs, that Annette, he really is. He's speaking amazingly freely. And I will tell all of you right now, I don't even have a problem saying this. I wanted this to be BS. I set out to try to find a way to say, I guarantee you that this is a scam. Like, I wanted so badly to believe that, because I would love to be this dude. And I don't mean in personality by any stretch, but I mean the reach that he has and the amount of people that he helped and all of that is just, I mean, honestly, I look at this guy and I think, boy, he's doing it right. Borderline, I agree with you. I think that both things, as I was saying earlier, can absolutely exist at the same time. I think that there is nothing coincidental about the fact that the press decided to start going hard looking for things now. I don't think that there's anything about that that's not a fact. I think they're going after him because of who he is. But that doesn't mean that the things that they're accusing him of aren't facts. And after reading there are 5 cases out there that you can read about and get a pretty good description of what these people have said and everything else. And of the 5, there are 2 of them that are really difficult to get by. The other 3, I didn't have a problem. I could honestly say, yeah, I could go either way on this. I don't know. I would defer to trying to believe the women, because I think that that's probably the way we do it now, right? Unless it's just glaring, you kind of go that route, and then you see how things get worked out in court or whatever the case may be. But there are 2 of these that, I mean, they're just very, very difficult to. There's a lot of evidence. There's a lot of trail that's been left. Yeah, you can't. Russ is, and that's really where it is. You can absolutely love the cause, right? You can love the cause and not love the person. And I'll be honest, what's kind of easy for me is this, and I don't know if I explained this the last time, but I hated Russell Brand as an actor, right? When he was in the life and he was doing what he was doing and all of that, marrying Katy Perry and all that, I could not stand the persona and how the guy was. Could not stand him. Then he dropped out of the limelight and he got sober and he started to do, a lot of, to talk a lot about his sobriety and about being healthy and things like that. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I think I can like this guy. I really started to feel like maybe this was a dude that I could get behind. The personality seemed to have morphed some. He was more humble. He wasn't, part of his personality in the beginning was incredibly sexual. He made really off color comments everywhere he went. It was amazing watching it during that time that every time he left a set, somebody didn't file a sexual harassment lawsuit. There are clips out there if you just look online. I mean, you could do it all day and not run out of them, where he just said something really inappropriate on air, and on to the next interview where he was going to do that again, or kissing reporters on the lips after an interview. Just, he was a very inappropriate cat, and easy to dislike. When somebody has that metamorphosis where they change so much, you just want to root for him.
Right.
Big me, for instance, right? We're all here listening to a bank robber, so you kind of understand that we do root for the comeback, right? We root for somebody that's making a comeback. Absolutely right. D. Audrey Gore says, plenty of predators use a good cause as a disguise. Jimmy Savile, for example. If you do not know who Jimmy Savile is, Lydia von Stretchclaw said it was similar with the Jimmy Savile case in the UK, perhaps hyperbolic in comparison. Jimmy Savile raised millions for Stoke Manville Hospital, but was also assaulting hundreds. His case is horrific. If you're not familiar with the Jimmy Savile case, it's horrific. He looked remarkably like the professional wrestler that used to go whoo all the time. Very, very flamboyant character that was, I guess, just absolutely huge in Great Britain, and worked for the BBC, right? If I'm not mistaken, that was. I mean, but he had access nonstop to kids because of things that he was filming, and he was just an absolute predator. And there were several others. There was a bad period of time in that part of the world where. And we're no better. I'm not. Trust me, I'm not giving a pass to this side of the pond. But there was a bad period over there, and sadly, when I was researching this one of the claims that you hear multiple women make is that these things took place on the set, and it was very out in the open. And the newest accusation talks about him. Exposing himself, not in a closet or in a dressing room or anything like that, but literally walking around the set, which would lead you to believe that somebody might have said, "Hey, what the hell are we doing here?" I don't think that is as likely to happen in today's environment since the Me Too movement. However, the cult of celebrity is something that is just I don't know. We saw it with hold on one second. We saw it with the Danny Masterson case, right? I go in to watch the sentencing of that, and I assure you, people, I've never been to any place where the person getting sentenced was not wearing jail clothing. 100 out of 100 times, it's just not done. It's you're no longer a citizen. Those clothes are gone. You lose everything. And they were able, even after what that dirtbag got convicted for, and they knew what was coming, right? But they talked the judge or whoever was involved into allowing that guy to walk into court wearing. I mean, he had on sneakers. He looked like hell anyway. But it was special treatment. It never would have happened to me. It never would have happened to any of you, and that's wrong. You know what, Annette? I understand this. I really do. She says predators are the worst. Vans scare me to this day. I get the creeps when I see one. I was never accosted or anything like that. I just get a creepy feeling. Did we not have this conversation? Sure. My brother Johnny and I were talking about this, and I think that just makes a crap load of sense to me. I get that way, especially if it's the creepy van. You know what I mean? If it's like the white 1970s panel van or anything, it's just, yeah. Hold on one second. I wish I knew more of the names of some of the programs and things with Jimmy Savile and stuff from over there. I watched all the documentaries that I could find on that whole debacle, and just went on for so long.
It was one of those things where after the fact they looked back and saw everything. It was like, how did they know?
Who else was like that too was Gary Glitter. Gary Glitter was another one where for the entire lifetime that dude had any influence at all, everybody knew he was a dirtbag. And again, the cult of celebrity. Good God, Christy, what a terrifying thing. Is that true? Christy said she watched a documentary, and they said that women who wear their hair in a ponytail or buns, the predator can grab your hair and pull you into the van easier. It's what they look for.
Good God.
Terrifying, right? I guess, you know what? It's a very odd thing, Christy. I mean, everybody involved. Mike H says Gary was a monster, a talented one, but a monster. Absolutely a monster, to be sure. To be sure, was a monster.
I get that in showbiz, if you're a drug addict, they're going to get you drugs and all that. But how, if you're like kids, are they going to, I don't understand.
It's not. I don't know that in
Jimmy Savile, it seemed like it was.
They just looked the other way.
It was almost just like Jared, really. From very, very similar. There's a lot of people that knew what was going on.
See, I don't know enough about the Jared case to make any kind of intelligent thing on that. Wow, Russ says that John Mellencamp's drummer was a giant child predator and is in prison now. I did not know that. That's crazy. Somebody from the Cars was too. One of the guys from the Cars ended up being a huge predator as well. Poof 911. Poof 911. Welcome to the lifeboat. Poof 911. Sandra, good to see you. Honestly, Chrissy, I'm glad you said that. It's scary as hell, but you got to start thinking that if the I read all of the stuff on Bundy, because every prison you go to, for whatever reason, those are on every bookshelf, and but I've read everything that you could read on and the lengths that he went to plan how to make grabbing someone easier was incredible. I mean, yeah, there are people, a lot of other things, don't try to do what you can to always be with people. And that advice is good for everybody in the day and age that we live in, park near each other, hang out, don't be out alone. Right. Jason 1970 says, crap, I wear my hair in a ponytail. Be careful, Jason. Be careful. Really? I'm going to have to. Kathy says that Dr. Phil profiled Jared a few times and had the witness on that helped take him down. Dr. Phil discussed grooming techniques, etc. I met the guy that punched him in the face. I met the first guy that fired on him when he got to prison. I met that guy, and he was telling the story. And
by the way, it was John Mellencamp's keyboardist, not his drummer.
Oh, it was the keyboardist for John Mellencamp. Apparently, not the drummer. We don't want to get the drummer. It's very important to the drummer.
Sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
Well, I know. So, this guy said to me, "Yeah, I'm the guy that hit Jared when he first got to Colorado." And I said, "Sure you are." And you could go on the computer and, if your last name is Scoville, chances are the people that sent you money, you probably got the name Scoville, right? Because you're going to have matching, or you may have 2 or 3 other names of people who are friends from the street or whatever, right? This dude had 300 or 400 different names of people that sent him money, and it was $5, $10, $20. What happened, and this never happens, but somehow it got to the street who the person was that punched him, and the guy mailed his ID out, and TMZ got a hold of his ID, and they did the story and put up his ID with his register number on it, and the entire country just started sending him $5 and $10 for hitting him. And he said to me, he goes, I don't know how it works with the internet or any of that stuff. He goes, but every once in a while they must show it again because I'll just start getting cash out of the blue. I said, well, ride it as long as you can. Oh, 1 second. Kelly Gerling says, just watched the documentary on Army Hammer. He's terrifying too. Women need to be taught never to physically submit themselves to anyone ever. How did that one end? Johnny, give me a tissue. Really, something. I am so stuffed.
You are. I am.
And I should have just navaged this morning. Valerie says, being a single gal in Chicago was a trip. My sister always throws it in my face that I'm lucky I was drunk the whole time. It gave me liquid courage. Not exactly sound thinking on her part. Probably not. But thank God you're safe. And as crazy as it is, the times we lived in, it's more dangerous now than it was then. 1 second, people. Do me a favor. Tell me, did you hear that noise? Because I hit the mute button on the Yeti. But to be really honest with you, I don't know if the mute button on the Yeti does anything.
People in Brazil heard that.
People in Brazil apparently heard that, according to my brother. The most powerful book I ever read was Gavin de Becker's The Gift of Fear. Hold on a second. Anytime somebody says the most powerful book they ever read or something like that, and you don't take time to find out and write it down or whatever, you're going to regret it later. Because that's just one of those things that, thank you. So much easier than writing stuff down. See, in the old days, I would write stuff down on a little Post-it note. And then I would find the Post-it note and it would just have a phone number on it. Or it would just have it would say The Gift of Fear. And I'd look down and be like, what the hell is that? I was never particularly good at, this is easier. Definitely easier. No, we didn't hear it, says Christy Caldwell. Do you hear that? Huh? The mute button on the old Yeti Blue works. What are you doing, squirrel? I think I told you guys I had to pull some. Hey, Skywalker, good to see you. Had to pull some thorns out of. They were actually spines off a cactus. I don't know. Somehow squirrel ran headlong into one. Didn't you crazy kitty? But what a trooper. I mean, she let me yank these things out of her face. And I mean, she would meow, but I didn't have to hold her or grip her or anything. She would get angry and walk away for like 5 or 6 feet, look at me, stomp around a little bit, and then walk back over, let me pick her back up and go again. Yeah. Jess, you just got the notification? That's odd. Yeah, she her tortie behavior is not normal. She's definitely a tortoise. I was explaining to my brother the whole tortitude thing. These cats, every tortie is so unique, and I know all cats are, but they are so unique to other breeds. There's something about them. There's always that, I don't know, and they're not the set. Each one. There's always a unique characteristic to every tortie that I've ever owned that made them just so bizarre. You remember the when I was living in Sparks with the lawyer, I had a tortie named Fiona, and that cat would chew apart anything stuffed. Like, forget about it. If there was a stuffed animal in the house, the cat was going to destroy it. And we had them like high on shelves as decorations or whatever. You'd come in and Snoopy would be missing a left arm. The cat was just bizarre. And other than that, it was a very normal, and never see a male tortie. No, you do not. Torties are females. It makes picking them out a lot easier because I tend to only go for female cats. I've had males, but I really prefer female cats. Wow. Hold on a second. Let's back up here a second. Borderline. I don't see what I saw. Congratulations for Borderline, but I don't see how much he lost. But Moni69 says, congratulations, Borderline. I'm getting injections on Friday, so hopefully that will help my neck, spine, coccyx, and hip. Lost 53 kilograms, but I want to lose another 20 keys. Not sure in stone. I don't know. I love it when people measure in stone. Too. It always makes me think of Barry McGuigan.
Yeah, it sure does.
Doesn't it? Yeah. The boxer, Barry McGuigan. I think he was the only person that ever used to come in and demand that they did his weight in stone. Oh, man. Hey, Maggie May. Good to see you. Valerie says, Josh Duggar gives such a creepy vibe on film. Yeah, he does. Do you hear her chewing on her paw?
Yeah, I do.
Wow. If you guys hear that noise, that is Squirrel trying to remove her claw for some reason. She's always trying to like get the next level down. This is a good question. Is weird when your hair stands up on your skin. When I walk past creeps or get a glimpse in eye, it happens all the time. I change directions and my sentence heightened. And
Always trust.
then I'm calm when they go. You know what, Annette? Trust that crap every single time you feel it. Right? Please, every time you feel that, anybody, right? Never second guess that stuff. For real. I am such a believer in that.
Your pets too.
You know something? And I know, look, I would not want to go back and change history. I really would not. But I can't tell you the number of times in my criminal career where I went, you know what? This doesn't feel right. And then proceeded to do it anyway, only to find out that I was right. This wasn't right. You know, I remember once with Jack, we were going to buy dope. 6-month milestone, Gypsy Daisy. Congratulations, Gypsy Daisy. 9 months. That's big time. That's big time. That's what we're closing in on 300 days.
You're looking at it. You're smelling the year coming.
Woo! Good for you. Congratulations. The official participation trophy. Hey, I'm glad you found me too, Skywalker. I really am. I'm glad that you found me too. Yeah, trust your intuitions, people. Please, always trust your intuitions. I'm walking with Jack. I'm going to get dope, and we're in this it's kind of a bit of a skeezy condo complex. I think I've told this story before. But every time we would go in to buy, and this was a rare thing, because normally the way you buy my drug of choice is you make a phone call and you meet somebody in a parking lot. This was a guy that would buy a bunch of dope from the people in the parking lot, and he would sell it for $5 more than they did, but you didn't have to wait on it. You could just drive over to his place. Now, he didn't ever have a ton of it, so very often you had to wait for them to show up anyway. But I'm walking in there once with Jack, and he goes, I said, what are you doing? He goes, every time I come in here, I can hear him taking pictures. I know they're looking at us right now. And I went, dude, what a rotten thing to say, right? Hey, DJ Daddio. What a rotten thing to say, right? Why would you say that? Not a week and a half later, I pulled into that apartment complex. And as I was driving up, I looked to the right, and every single set of blinds in the entire development were down. Right? Never seen this before. I'd been there a million times, and I looked up and I just saw, and there was not one anywhere. I'm talking about, 200 blinds. And I looked at Jack. I was like, does that seem off to you? And he's like, no, I think we're good. I'm like, I'm out of here. And he's like, what? I'm like, no, we're out of here. And I passed my friend on the way there, my friend Lou. I said, hey, something's going on there, bro. Do not go there. I'm telling you right now, there's cop action. There's something. Don't go there. What did he do? He went there. I was right. He walked through the front door and they laid him on his face. They were already inside. We were 30 seconds away. But again, I'm not. I wish I had been busted that day. It probably would have helped me. Lumen on a Sunday afternoon. My husband is a retired law enforcement. Yes, trust your instincts and always remember theft, etc., can be a crime of opportunity. So try to be alert too. Boy, if you knew how true that is, right? From a professional thief. If you knew how true that so often theft is a crime of opportunity. There were so many times that we stole something. We didn't go out to steal something. We had no intention of stealing something. But if you saw something that was just so out in the open, and you were, and you're somebody, like if somebody with a drug habit and you see something that's worth $1,000, you're taking it. If they put something somewhere where you can get at it, you're taking it. So yeah, crime of opportunity is a thing. It really is. I promise you it is. Thank you, Jess. Thank you for putting it in capitals. So worthy of it. Teach your kids to trust their instincts. Don't overrule that instinct, because that could be what saves them. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's the takeaway for the entire show. I promise you, that's the takeaway for the entire show. Teach your kids to trust their instincts. Make them understand what instincts are and teach them to trust them. Thank God you are, Annette. Annette says, growing up in a city, I learned to be very observant always. I'm alive today because of it. Thank my ever-loving intuition. Well, I do too, Annette. I'm glad that you're here, and I'm glad that you trusted your intuition. I mean, I continue to do so. It is a constant vigilance, people, about everything, right? You really need to. Yeah, the 5-finger discount. That's what we used to call it. Only caps because I still can't find where Grace hid my glasses. Classic. I love that. That's classic. You know what? I'm going back to the nose blow. Hold on, people. Oh, Johnny Scoville's funny. He really is. He's funny. Excuse me. Right? Russ and Franklin, be proud of yourselves, to be sure. And you know what? This is the place to be proud of yourself. For real, right? That's what we do here. Fighting addiction, fighting anything requires the help of a lot of people. I have learned more in the last 2 months just how much all of us are exactly the same. Working with people who have absolutely no problem with drugs and never have, who are struggling in big ways to overcome things in their life that are no different than us in any way. Although I shouldn't say that. Their afflictions are no different than our afflictions. The way that they get through them, the way that they relapse into them, the way they fall back into habits that they're trying to overcome, it's just relapsing. It's really no different. There's just no drug involved. But the longer I do this, the more that I realize that it's just amazing. My kids live half a mile away. It's half my battle. That's hard. If you're not able to see your kids and they're a half a mile away, that's hard. But if you're not able to see your kids, you may as well have a prison wall around you, right? Half a mile away, 500 miles away. I mean, I'm sure that it's frustrating that they're right there. I remember being incarcerated in a city that I had family in, and it was painful. There was something about knowing that I was closer to them, that just down the street were people that were nearby. It's a difficult thing. But hopefully, Skywalker, you're winning this battle, right? I can make you a promise right now. This is something that I've talked about on the show so many times, but my number one go-to favorite excuse in all of the time that I did drugs. And we all have favorite excuses. I'm not busting your chops, I promise you. But my favorite excuse was my daughter, because it was so right out of a movie how they said to me, "You're never seeing your kid again." Right? It was like my daughter got stolen from me. And it was just, it's a great story too, isn't it? They took my kid from me. I mean, it was my favorite. It was my go-to. And it was legit. I felt it. It was killing me. It really was. It was killing me. And opiates made that go away. However, if I continued to do it, I was never, ever going to have a shot at being a part of that child's life. Now, at the time, I didn't believe I was ever going to be a part of her life anyway. I didn't think that was in the cards. I didn't think that there was ever going to be any way till she was 18. I've told this story on the boat a million times, but I had it in my head that I would show up at her high school graduation. Right? This is what you think about in prison when you got 13 years to do nothing. I was going to show up at her high school graduation, and I was going to tell her that I loved her and that I always wanted to be a part of her life, but nobody would let me. Right? That was the plan. And Fortunately, I didn't wait to sober up until she was 18. Right? I got sober when she was about 10. So when she was about 12, I got a phone call from my son who said, "Mom wants to talk to you." And it was about my daughter. The greatest thing that has happened to me in my life of sobriety is my daughter, hands down. Um, the second best thing would be the relationship that I have with my son. I had a great relationship with him beforehand. I really did. The relationship that I have with Spanx now is incredible. But to have my daughter back in my life, if I had been still on the needle when my ex-wife reached out, I would not be in my daughter's life right now. I promise you. My wife, ex-wife, went and literally threw the ball to me. Go ahead, bury yourself. Let this kid know you're a junkie and watch how fast this kid runs from you. That's literally what my ex-wife did. God bless her. And thank God that I was where I was, because what an amazing motivator. What a freaking incredible motivator to not go back to doing dope. Cedar was, yeah. And I didn't think it was coming. There's nothing like a 6-year jump on your fantasy, of being in my daughter's life. I, by the way, went to my daughter's high school graduation. And I brought the lifeboat with me. You guys were there, a lot of you. And that day, as my daughter sat with her cap and gown on, she was texting me. Through that entire graduation, we texted back and forth, making jokes about the people making speeches and just being a juvenile. But it was beautiful. And it was something that if you had asked me, 6 years earlier, 5 years earlier, if there was a chance in hell of that happening, I would have told you no. You never know what tomorrow brings when you're sober. If you're wasted, I can promise you what tomorrow will bring, because it's going to bring the same crap that it brought today. It's going to bring the same crap. It's going to bring the following day. It's going to be misery. It's going to be heartache. It's not going to be good, except for that, first 6 minutes, right? You taste that, it hits your lips. You feel fantastic, right? For a little while. I'm sorry, Lydia von Stretchclaw. You know what? There's something to be said for that. Smiling at somebody. You know what, Steve? Steve says there's a lot of good dads in here. I think everybody on the planet has the potential to be a fantastic parent, right? I really believe that. Gypsy Daisy says, wow, this is so heavy. There's nothing more soul destroying as when your parent chooses XYZ over you. This is really heavy because of the number of second generation Scientologists that I've met who have had parents disconnect from them. And this is very recent. So this is a subject matter that I've been talking about a lot of late. And, I chose dope over my kids for a really long time. I chose dope over everything for a really, really long time. And it's, it's the same thing for second gens. Their parents are doing the same thing, really. Vanessa LaRose talks about, it's just two different needles. One's sticking a needle in their arm and the other's trying to make that needle, move or float, I guess is they're trying to make that needle float. But it's such a heavy comment, isn't it? There's nothing more soul destroying as when your parent chooses XYZ over you. And do you know how crazy often it is that people, I've worked with so many people already on the lifeboat who had two parents who were addicted to drugs that are no longer in their life. Either the parents passed away and overdosed, or the parents ran off, or whatever. But when that person becomes an adult, that in the back of their head, what was so great that it was more important than me? What was so great that it was more important than me? What was so great that it was more important than me? Until they go out and find out exactly what was so great about it. And so often you see these people grow into adults that are addicted to the same drugs that their parents were addicted to. And it's heart-wrenching. But if you think about it, it makes a hell of a lot of sense. Charlie Murphy says, leave a comment after the show. And do you know something? 1,200 or 1,300 and whatever shows, Charlie has never not left a comment. In fact, I don't think he's ever not left 3. Charlie's a beast, stone cold beast. And he and his lovely wife, Mary, are just salt of the earth, man. Salt of the earth, for real. I brought a lot of gifts home in brown bags, says Steve Molesky. Yeah, it's funny and not funny, but I had a filing cabinet in an office that I had in Utah, and every time I would get dope, I would take the little piece of plastic. Heroin comes in a little round ball that almost looks like it could be black Play-Doh or something like that, right? The tar. And it has a white square piece of plastic that would wrap around that so it wouldn't stick to the balloon, because they're going to put that inside a balloon. That way, if the police pull them over or whatever, they can swallow all of them without fear of it killing them. They can keep it in their mouth at all times, whatever. But I used to take those little white things and throw them into the filing cabinet, right? Every time I bought a bag. And I did this for 3 or 4 years. And maybe even more than that, 5 years. But the time came where we were getting ready to move and we were cleaning out this filing cabinet. And I am pulling these things out 2 handfuls at a time, right? And throwing them into a garbage bag. And it's like a $20 bill, right? Every single one of these. And I'm just throwing them into the garbage can and looking down and I'm going, my God in heaven. You know what? The amount of cash. So when you say I brought home a lot of stuff in brown bags, when you start looking at the amount of stuff that we really go through, my baby's mama, God bless her, been sober for a very, very long time. It's the one I was just talking about. She's been sober a long time. But when she wasn't, she had gone to rehab and got sober, and she fell off the wagon and had been stashing the bottles that she had been drinking under the bed. And I was playing around with a cat, and the cat had knocked something, and I went under the bed to get it. And the number of bottles that she had amassed under that bed in 30 days was terrifying. Terrifying. And I was working, so I was gone all day, but it was ridiculous. Moni says, Tommy, there's another YouTuber called Andrew Gold, who is a reporter and investigated both Seville and Brandt. Interesting thoughts on both cases. Or a guy called H.G. Tudor, an English narcissist. I'm familiar with H.G. Tudor. Interesting cat. And I also I watch Andrew Gold. Andrew would probably be the first to say to you that he's less of a reporter now than he used to be, and I mean that. I just watch him a lot, and he said that he's not really part of the real mainstream media these days. What he does is really kind of different than reporting, and you end up putting a lot of your opinions into things, which reporters don't do, and with what's going on right now between the Israelis and the Palestinians. If you've been watching any of his content on it, I think it's really it's brave stuff. It really is. Yeah, Andrew does a lot of good work. Are we doing 24 hours today? Says Steve Molesky. See that? You bring it up, and then somebody might ask you about it.
What's he talking about? What's this 24 hours he speaks of?
There will be 24 hours today. I promise you. I hope. I'd be really scared the first day that there aren't 24 hours. You understand what I'm saying? Look at how regal my kitty cat looks. Oh, you're a good looking kitty. Happy cat, happy cat. Alrighty, people. You know what it is. Oh, so let me finish this up. This is funny. I assume that you all realize that right now, where you are at, daylight savings happened, right? And you guys, what did you do? You fell back. You fell back 1 hour. Well, we didn't. See, I'm in a state that does not change the clock. So today I got up, ready to do the lifeboat. And I turned the computer on and I went, oh, crap. No one's going to see this if I do this right now. It's the wrong time of the day. If I do this right now, I'm host. So I opted to hold off. But so right now, it is actually 5 minutes after 7, not 5 minutes after 6. We will continue doing the lifeboat at the same time. For all of you that said you should just push it to 6 o'clock in the morning, you'd be way happier. I just did. How's that? All right. I will see you people later today. I'm probably going to go live before 5. So we'll see you shortly, I guess. Got to go to church. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. And this beautiful creature is a cat in a basket who hears something.
Right.
Thinks she's getting fed. All righty, everyone. God bless. And